as an adult trying to read a lot in my adult life, there's nothing better than an amazing audiobook that you can get lost in. I thrive in an audiobook that can take me out of the real world while I'm doing laundry or dishes or going for a walk with the dog, anything. When I'm reading one of these books that I'm gonna show you, like, I love doing laundry because it's an excuse to keep living in this alternate reality where I'm like watching a movie in my head. That's how good these audiobooks are. It's been a while since my last audiobook video. My name's Christine. Hi, I didn't introduce myself. My name's not Poland Bananas. If you were wondering, that's not, my parents didn't spit me out of their vagina. Only one parent spit me out of their, you know. I'm Christine, and it's been a while since my last audiobook video. I think I made that in 2018, my favorite audiobooks, and these are my favorite audiobooks from 2018 on that did not make it into that video. Now I was gonna do my top 10 audiobooks, got too many. I'm just doing an ascending list. Even the ones that I'm gonna start out with are still really great. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, so like they had to be really great to make this list at all. I know what came first, like I know my number one. Ascending to number one, very difficult. Hopping right into things. What inspired today's video was the release of Defend the Dawn by BRIGID KEMMERER. Defend the Dawn is our Booksplosion October book of the month. This month we're working with Bloomsbury and we're reading the sequel to Defy the Night. These books are so much fun. They have the best audiobooks. You get sucked right into the story. It's a fantasy novel, but I feel like I've said this a million times. It's such a character-driven fantasy novel. It's not hard to get into. It's so easy to slip into the world and become really invested, and that's the best. That's my favorite kind of fantasy novel. Don't get me wrong, I love a high fantasy novel with like all sorts of cool magic systems and like stuff in the world that you have to learn, but when you're busy, it's hard to fall into a high fantasy novel. These are fantasy novels, but they have like a Game of Thrones sort of environment. There's, you know, a kingdom. Is it called a kingdom? I get, like, yeah, there's a kingdom. There's a kingdom. There's a plague plaguing the kingdom. And the plant that they need to make the antidote is only in certain regions. And so those regions are in high demand. And the kingdom is dealing with all of that. The lead character, Tessa, is an apothecarian? Wow, is that a word? Apothecary? A pharmacist of olden times, okay? There's not enough of that plant to go around. There's more for the rich than there is for the poor, and she's making antidotes and kind of stealing supplies with the help of a vigilante. That's all I'm going to say. It's got romance, it's got intrigue, it's got a freaking amazing audiobook. I've already gotten the audiobook for Defend the Dawn. I'm excited to jump into it. Our live show, Booksplosion discussion, will be on November 5th. There's a link to the Booksplosion channel in the description and a link to get Defend the Dawn and the first novel, Defy the Night, if you haven't read that one yet. All right, starting up my mountain of audiobooks you can get lost in. We have Red, White, and Royal Blue. Now, this was a book I obviously very, very much wanted to read, but couldn't read with my eyes, so I got the audiobook because I heard it was good. And it was so fun, and it was so calming. I've listened to this book 3 times since. The first time I had it in for like 2 straight days or 1 straight. I read it very quickly. I remember being on the bike listening to it and enjoying it so much. I wouldn't say this is one that like took me out of the real world so much as it let me read the book without actually using my eyes, and it helps me get to sleep. It's such a great story. It's such a great book. I don't know, there's something about it that calms me and makes me laugh. Obviously, it's a rom-com. You know what Red, White, and Royal Blue is about, right? The first son of the United States, the president's kid, and the prince of England, so like the Queen's grandson, they get together, like it's becoming a movie. You know about this book. The audiobook is so good, so soothing, and not in a way that puts you to sleep like if you're listening to it during the day. I'm just saying, like, they've got great voices. Or maybe it's just one voice, but they're doing different voices. It's great, okay? What do you mean there's a new Percy book? Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Chalice of the Gods? Moving on up. I've got John Green's The Anthropocene Reviewed. So John reads The Anthropocene Reviewed. And I don't know if you're like me and you have trouble reading nonfiction just because you're like, oh, there's not gonna be an arc, there's not gonna be like characters. I can't handle this. It's too boring. Like, I don't know why that's my brain, but that's what my brain says. I didn't use this to sleep, but like on anxious days where I was taking walks with Bellamy, I would like pop this in and it felt like I was talking to a friend because I've been watching John Green's videos on YouTube and listening to him talk about stuff since like 2007. These essays are so thought-provoking and so heartwarming at times and so, I want to say another word, thought-provoking, but it's not coming to me because I'm still thinking about how there's another Percy Jackson book coming. I can't go on without talking about these audiobooks. The Again But Better audiobook and the Better Together audiobook by this author, Riccio. I don't know if you've heard of her. Some people call her Poland Bananas. It's me. Hi. I was very, very particular about my audiobooks because I have such an intense love for audiobooks. So they sent over like 4 auditions for Again But Better and I was like, none of these really are saying amazing audiobook for my book to me because there's a lot of comedy in my books and if it's not being read with comedic timing, it's not funny. So I was like, I need like a comedy reader. I don't know, someone who like gets the sense of humor when they're reading instead of saying it seriously. And then they sent a couple more and I found Britt Presley, who did the audiobook, and she's fantastic! So good. Highly recommend this audiobook because I went to watch her record it. At first it was jarring because I've only ever heard it in my own voice, but then I adjusted to her voice and it was like I wasn't even listening to my own book. I just got lost in the story. And that's a beautiful thing, folks. A beautiful thing. And then my second novel, Better Together, also so much fun. So this has 2 points of view, so I got to find 2 audiobook narrators. They brought back Britt Presley to be Jamie, who is the aspiring comedian and has a lot of comedic moments that have to be said. And then Carissa Vacker played Siri. She was fantastic. They are both excellent. It is an excellent audiobook. It is about 2 sisters who are going through their quarter-life crisis. They're in bedrooms on this cover, so it makes it look younger than it actually is. They're going through like that post-college life, quarter-life crisis and finding love. It's really fun. There's lots of comedy and yeah, great audiobook. Next on our list are 2 books I left downstairs. 1 minute. Next on our list we have Hank Green's duology, an absolutely remarkable thing and a beautifully foolish endeavor. These audiobooks were so good, so all-encompassing. Like, I was watching these babies as I listened to them. They had a full cast, if I remember correctly, yes. And I just had the best time listening to it. I listened to this one during the pandemic, and I just remember it being like the most fun escape. If you're an internet person, this is so relevant to your life. You're gonna feel a lot of things. The next on my list is the Atlas 6. Now, I've been talking about this a lot lately because I read it this year and I freaking love it, and the second book comes out like in a second. It might be out when this comes out, and I absolutely loved it, and the audiobook really made it for me even better than I think if I was reading it because it had a full cast and the narrators were phenomenal. It just really sucked me into the story and I was watching it happen and like I knew everyone's voices and oh my god, the actress that plays like, I think her name is Paris, that actress like chilled me to my very core. Like you could feel the personalities of all these characters so strongly through the narrators. Like they had those characters on lock. So good. Oh yeah, all of the ones from now on my list are just like so good. I don't even know what to say in terms of like the ordering. I mean, yes, I'm going up the list, but wow, they're all really good. Next, I have Tower of Dawn by Miss Sarah J. Maas. Now, a lot of us were resistant to picking up Tower of Dawn because it's from Kale's point of view and our main characters are off doing something else, but it is pure excellence. As I've said many a time, if you watched any of my videos talking about Tower of Dawn and you still haven't read it yet. Again, I was one of those people who was like, oh, Kale, but I got the audiobook and I fell in love with the story, and all these new characters are fantastic. And I don't know why, if you like any of Sarah J. Maas's other books, you were thinking that you weren't gonna like this one, because she'll win you over within like the first 50 pages. Get it, listen to it, read it before you finish the Throne of Glass series. Jeez Louise. Next, I have Emily Henry's Beach Read, Emily Henry's People We Meet on Vacation, Emily Henry's Book Lovers. They're all narrated by, I believe, Julia Whelan. Such great comedic timing. Like, I'm laughing out loud, I'm crying, I'm completely in these rom-coms, these perfect rom-coms Emily Henry has given us. Again, the other ones are Book Lovers and People We Meet on Vacation, all fantastic. So if you don't have time or you're too busy to sit down and read with your eyes, get the audiobooks. They are so excellent. Next, climbing, I have, wait, this is not it, never mind, hold on. Next, on the way up, I have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I think on the topic of Julia Whelan, this is also her work. I mean, V.E. Schwab wrote this amazing, fantastic, phenomenal, top tier, favorite book of all time of mine book, but Julia Whelan gave it these spectacular performance in the audiobook. Oh, yeah, again, I saw this as a movie. I listened to it again, and it's just such beautiful writing. Sometimes when there's beautiful writing, I don't know, it's hard to feel it the same way when you listen to it rather than read it, but I felt it so hard, so beautifully. This is one of the only books that I use the bookmark feature on my audiobook app. I would bookmark like little different sections because of how beautiful the writing was, and I needed to go back and listen to it and write down what I loved so much about it and write down the quotes, and oh, she paints the words with vocals so perfectly. Next, we have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I just have the best memories of listening to this at the end of like 2020, I think it was, on my Christmas break. It's very creepy. It's definitely, this is a rated R book. I think I say that every single time I talk about it. It's rated R, but this is the perfect time to pick it up because the sequel is coming out at the start of 2023. I cannot wait to read it, but I feel like I've forgotten the book, so I'm going to be re-listening to it very soon. This is my favorite Leigh Bardugo book. It's an adult book, and it's about secret societies at Yale. Again, like when I think about this book, I see the movie in my head that the audiobook painted for me. Like a combination of Leigh's words and Lauren's narrating. Perfection. Perfection. You gotta listen to it unless you're a youth. Like, this has sensitive topics, so definitely check out the trigger warnings before you pick it up. Next, and number 3 on my best audiobooks that I got lost in are all of Taylor Jenkins Reid's novels via audiobook. Holy crap, they are excellent. Now, in order from my favorite to least favorite, I gotta go Malibu Rising is my absolute favorite, and the audiobook is by Julia Whelan. Yep, you guessed it, Julia Whelan strikes again with a kick-ass audiobook. Oh my gosh, and this is my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid's book. And then Daisy Jones and the Six, it's a full cast. It's just all encompassing. It's like told through tape recorded interviews too. So you're listening to people tell the story of Daisy Jones, and again, you're just in it. I just finished Carrie SOTO is Back. I recorded a book talk because I was so in it. Highly recommend. I don't know who narrated Carrie SOTO is Back, but she grew on me. Whereas like these two audiobooks I liked right off the bat. I think that has more to do with Carrie SOTO as a character, honestly, than the narrator. You'll know when you start the book. Or if you want to listen to my book talk where I talk about it in a non-spoilery way, I'll talk about why that is. We've got my top 2 of the last 4 years left. Coming in at number 2, we have The Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy via audiobook. This is masterfully produced, this audiobook. There's so much going on. She's like recording audio snippets. She's trying to solve a murder, a cold case, and she's going around gathering evidence, and we are getting it in the coolest way with a full cast. Everyone is giving top-notch performances. I've got the UK version of the first book, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and I don't have the middle book I have them all on audio. Nothing matches. The third book, I wish I filmed myself listening to the last like 6 hours of this book. I feel like I was a mess. I was not here at all. I think I was reorganizing my bookshelf just for something to do so I could just listen to this. And I don't think I was organizing it well because I was just lost in it. I was completely lost and finding any excuse to keep listening to the book. So I think I cleaned my entire house like without really paying attention to the house. I was just not here at all. I was in it. If you have any interest in like the true crime genre but haven't ever dipped your feet in, I think this is an amazing starting series. You have to finish the series though. Like the first one is great and the second one is fun too, but like as a whole, that it is a full, you need to read all three. I started the third one and I took a long break before actually finishing it because it has a slow, kind of depressing start because our character's been through a lot of shit. But like, you gotta keep going. It is fucking, it's so good. All right, and finally, my #1 audiobook that I got lost in completely in the best way in the last 4 years was Andy Weir's The Hail Mary Project. Wait, Project Hail Mary. Oh my god, I've been telling everybody to read The Hail Mary Project. Damn it, Christine! This is what I get when I do the audiobook instead of the real book and my eyes didn't visually learn it. Whatever. This audiobook, y'all, I laughed, I cried, I watched the movie, I got other people who don't read to listen to it and read a book because it's so good. The audiobook just sucks you right in and the story's so good and the narrator's so good and they just do such a good job with the stuff that happens. It's produced beautifully. It's so good. I know I've told you what this is about. It's best not knowing much. So if you know what it's about and someone's asking what it's about in the comments, like, don't spoil it. What you could know is that there is a eventually like earth-ending event happening and they need to try to do whatever they can to stop it. And it's really like a Hail Mary play to try to save Earth, but in like Interstellar-ish fashion. Like if you like Interstellar, you're gonna like this. They send out a team on a long shot to try to find another planet or to try to figure out what's exactly is happening so that they can stop this. They're in space and they have to try to save Earth. And it feels so real. It's one of those, like, if you watch Interstellar and you loved it, you know how it feels watching that. You get those feelings when you're reading this, but I liked this better and I loved Interstellar. Like, oh my gosh, I had so many feelings and all my Ravenclaw love stuff was just activated. I was just like, oh, learning and oh, space stuff, the saving, oh god, it's so good. Guys, I drew fan art for this. Myself and John read this and we both made some fan art just for ourselves to like put it on the refrigerator because it's such a good book. Yeah, I mean, I think you've heard me talk about it since I read it. I loved it so much and I just like rave about it all the time. And that, my friends, is my list. I was gonna put the Scythe trilogy in here, but I realized I talked about at least the first one in my last video, but just know, if you don't yet, the Scythe trilogy. They're all good, they're fantastic. Everything I talked about, fantastic. I'd love to hear your top 5 favorite audiobooks that you got lost in. I'm always looking for new audiobook recs. That's like the way I consume books the most nowadays. Thank you all so much for watching. My name's Christine, I'm an author. The links to my books in the description, there again but better, and you can now pre-order the gorgeous paperback edition of my second novel, Better Together. They're 2 separate novels, so don't worry, you don't have to read one to read the other. All the links to my socials are in the description. I make videos every Sunday now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye! Ow! Oh my god.